Good day, everyone. I'm Hannah Nicole Vigas, together with Mr. Albert Serpino. Today, we will going to discuss all about Republic Act number 9155. But before we proceed to our main topic, we prepared some random facts about Philippine law you probably didn't know. Random fact number 1. Did you know that to be considered born alive, a baby must have been born at least 7 months and survive within 24 hours from birth? Random fact number 2. This is for us pet lovers. It is unlawful for a dog or cat to be displayed in a pet shop for more than 14 days. So, if you're planning to have a pet shop in the future, follow this. Random fact number 3, and probably the last. Did you know that a search warrant is valid for 10 days, while the warrant of arrest has no expiration date? Well, now you know. So if you don't want to receive any of this, don't commit a crime. Now let's go to our main topic. What is Republic Act number 9155? This is an act instituting a framework of governance for basic education, establishing authority and accountability, renaming the Department of Education, Culture and Sports as a Department of Education, and other purposes. Section 1 Short Title: Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Section 2 Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality basic education, and to make education accessible to all. It is compulsory education in the elementary level, education in the high school level, providing education to all Filipino children as a whole. And the good thing about is it's free. In this way, everybody regardless of this has a complete right to education. The state not only gives its focus to younger learners, but also it offers alternative learning system for out-of-school youth and adult learners, and it offers the knowledge, the skills, and the values that they need to be a productive and good citizens. Also known to us, the school. It is the heart of the formal education system, and it is where children learn. It has its aim to provide the best possible basic education for all learners. Concerning the governance of education, it starts with the national level, regions, divisions, schools, and learning center. All of these serves as field officers. This is where plans, programs, policies, and principles for the governance of basic education. In Section 3, it presents the purposes and objectives to provide the framework for the governance of basic education. This is where they set the general directions for educational policies and standards, and establish authority, accountability, and responsibility for achieving higher learning outcomes. In this way, they will have a standards to follow. Next is to define the roles and responsibilities of the national level, regions, and to provide resources to the field offices, such as divisions, schools, and learning center. In this way, they will implement educational programs, projects, and services in communities they serve. Next to it is to make schools and learning centers the most important vehicle for teaching and learning of national values Aside from their home, this is where they formally learn a lot of things. The Filipino learners develops their love to the country and pride in its rich heritage. Next is to ensure that schools and learning centers receive the kind of focused attention they deserve. And in that way, it means the need of the schools will be seen on the contraction effectively given all the needs that they acquire to enable the schools and learning centers to reflect the values of the community. And for the last, they will encourage local initiatives for the improvement of schools and learning centers, establishing schools and learning centers as facilities where school children are able to learn a range of core competencies out of school youth and adult learners that will provide alternative learning programs for them. Next is the Section 4. It presents the definition of terms that are used in this act. The first one is Alternative Learning System, or ALS. It is to provide a viable alternative to the existing formal education instruction. The second one is Basic Education, intended to meet basic learning needs, which lays the foundation on which subsequent learning can be based, encompasses early childhood, elementary and high school education, as well as alternative learning systems for out-of-school youth and other learners that includes education for those with special needs. The third one is the cluster of school. This is a group of schools which are geographically contiguous and brought together to improve the learning outcomes. The fourth one is the formal education, a systematic and deliberate process of hierarchically structured and sequential learning corresponding to the general concept of elementary and secondary level of schooling. For the fifth one is the information education, a lifelong process of learning by which every person acquires and accumulates knowledge, skills, attitudes, and insights from daily experiences at home, at work, at play, and from the life itself. And for the sixth one is the integrated schools, a school that offers a complete basic education in one school site and has unified instructional programs for the learners. Next is the learner. This is us, an individual seeking basic literacy skills and functional life skills or support services for the improvement of the quality of his or her life. The next is the learning center, a physical space to house learning resources and facilities of a learning program for out-of-school youth and adults. The next one is the learning facilitator, our professors. They are the key learning support or the guide person who is responsible for supervising or facilitating the learning process and activities of the learners. Next is non-formal education, any organized, systematic educational activity carried outside the framework of the formal system to provide selected types of learning to a segment of the population. The next one is the quality of education, the appropriateness, relevance, and excellence of the education given to meet the needs and aspirations of an individual and society. The next one is the school head. This is a person responsible for the administrative and instructional supervision of the school or cluster of schools. And for the last one, the most important one is the school, an educational institution, private and public, undertaking educational operation with a specific age group of pupils or students pursuing defined studies and defined levels, receiving instruction from teachers.
So let's now discuss about the chapter 1 of governance of basic education. So the shared governance is a principle that recognizes every unit in the education bureaucracy, and it has 3 units. First one is the particular role, second one is the task, and number 3 is the responsibility. Section 5, Principles of Shared Governance. This process of democratic consultation shall be observed in the decision-making process at appropriate levels. These principles of accountability and transparency shall be operationalized in the performance of function and responsibilities at all levels. The communication channels of field officers shall be strengthened to facilitate flow of information and expand linkages with other government agencies, local government units, and non-governmental organizations for effective governance. Section 6. Governance. The Department of Education, Culture and Sports shall henceforth be called the Department of Education. It shall be vested with the authority, accountability, and responsibility for ensuring access to, promoting equity in, and improving the quality of basic education. Section 7. Powers, Duties, and Functions. The Secretary of the Department of Education shall exercise overall authority and supervision over the operation of the department. The national level. In addition to its powers under existing laws, the Secretary of Education shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. Number 1. Formulating national educational policies. Number 2. Formulating a national basic education plan. Number 3. Promulgating national educational standards. Number 4. Monitoring and assessing national learning outcomes. Number 5. Undertaking national educational research and studies. Number 6 is the enhancing of the employment status, professional competence, welfare, and working condition of all the personnel of the department. And lastly, enhancing the total development of learners through local and national programs and/or projects. The Secretary of Education shall be assisted by not more than 4 undersecretaries and not more than 4 assistant secretaries whose assignments, duties, and responsibilities shall be governed by law. There shall be at least 1 undersecretary and 1 assistant secretary who shall be career executive service officers chosen from among the staff of the department. Next, we are going to the regional level. So there shall be as many regional offices as may be provided by law. Each regional office shall have a director, an assistant director, and an office staff for program promotion and support, planning, administrative, and fiscal services. The regional director shall have the authority, accountability, and responsibility of the following. Defining a regional educational policy framework which reflects the values, need, and expectation of the communities they serve. Next, developing a regional basic education plan. Third one, developing regional educational standards with a view towards benchmarking for the international competitiveness. Last one is monitoring, evaluating, and assessing regional learning outcomes. So, undertaking research projects and developing and managing region-wide projects which may be founded funded by the official development assistance and the other funding agencies. Ensuring strict compliance with prescribed national criteria for the recruitment, selection, and the training of all the staff in the region and divisions. Formulating in coordination with the Regional Development Council the budget to support the regional educational plan, which shall take into account the educational plans of the division and the districts. Determining the organization component of the division and districts and approving the proposed staffing pattern of all employees in the divisions and districts. Hiring, placing, and evaluating all employees in the regional office except the position of assistant and director or the assistant director. Next is the evaluating all the schools division superintendent and assistant division superintendents in the region. Planning and managing the effective and efficient use of all personnel, physical and fiscal resources of the regional office, including professional staff development. So in managing the database and management information system of the region, you need to approve the establishment of the public and private elementary and high schools and learning centers, performing such other functions as may be assigned by proper authorities. The next one is the division level. A division shall consist of province or city. In a school division superintendent, there must be at least one assistant school division superintendent, and the office staffs like the program promotion, the planning, administrative, fiscal, legal, ancillary, and other support services. Consistent with the national education policies, plans, and standards, the school division superintendent shall have authority, accountability, and responsibility for the following. The first one is the developing. Next is planning and managing. Next is hiring, placing, evaluating all division supervisors. Next, monitoring the utilization of funds provided by national government and the local. Next, ensuring compliance of quality standards for basic education programs. Next is promoting awareness of and adherence by all the schools and learning center to accreditation. The seventh one is the supervising the operations, and the last one is performing such other function as may be assigned by proper authorities. Moving in schools district level. Upon the recommendation of the schools division superintendents, the regional director may establish additional schools district within a schools division. The schools district already existing at the time of the passage of this law shall be maintained. A school district shall have school district supervisor and an office staff for program promotion. The school district supervisor shall be responsible for providing professional and instructional advice and support for the school heads and teachers or the facilitators of the schools and the learning centers in the district or cluster. Therefore, curricula supervision and performing such as other function as may be assigned by proper authorities.
Lastly, the school level. There shall be a school head for all public elementary schools and public high schools or a cluster. The establishment of integrated schools from existing public elementary and public high schools shall be encouraged. The school head will be assisted by an assistant school head, shall be both an instructional leader and administrative manager. The school head shall form a team with the school teachers, learning facilitators, to deliver a quality educational programs, projects, and services. A core of non-teaching staff shall handle the school's administrative, fiscal, and auxiliary services.
Chapter 2. The Transfer of Cultural Agencies. Section 8. Cultural Agencies. The Komisyon ng Wikang Pilipino, National Historical Institute, Record Management and Archives Office, and the National Library shall now be administratively attached to the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, NCCA, and no longer with the Department of Education. The program for school arts and culture shall remain part of the school curriculum. The Chapter 3. Abolition of the Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports. Section 9. Abolition of BPESS. All functions, programs, and activities of the Department of Education shall be related to sports competition shall be transferred to the Philippine Sports Commission, the PSC. The program for the school sports and physical fitness shall remain part of the basic education curriculum. The Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports is hereby abolished. The personnel of the BPESS, presently detailed with the PSC, are hereby transferred to the PSC without loss of rank, including the plantilla position they occupy. All other BPESS personnel shall be retained by the department.
And now for the Chapter 4, the support and assistance of other government agencies. In the Section 10 to 12, the agencies which give support and assistance, such as the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Budget and Management. This shall within 90 days from the approval of this Act jointly promulgate the guidelines on the allocation, distribution, and utilization of resources provided by the national government for the field officers, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working conditions of the teaching service. The Secretary of the Department of Education should ensure the resources appropriated for the field offices are adequate and that resources for school personnel, school desks, and textbooks and other instructional materials intended are allocated directly and released immediately by the Department of Budget and Management to said offices. Section 11. The Secretary of the Department of Education, the subject to civil service laws and regulations, shall issue appropriate personnel policy, rules, and regulations that will best meet the requirements of the teaching profession, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working conditions of the teaching service. Next is the Section 12, the Commission on Audit. In the issuance of audit rules and regulations that will govern the utilization of all resources as well as the liquidation, recording, and reporting thereof, shall take into account the different characteristics and distinct features of the department's field offices, its organizational setup, as well as the nature of the operations of schools and learning centers. And for the last chapter, the Chapter 5, Final Provisions. Section 13, Governance in the ARMM. The Regional Education Secretary for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM, shall exercise similar governance authority over the divisions, districts, schools, and learning centers in the region as may be provided in the Organic Act without prejudice to the provisions of Republic Act No. 9054, entitled An Act to Strengthen the Expand, the Organic Act for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the Purpose Republic Act No. 6734, entitled An Act Providing for the Autonomous Region in the Muslim Mindanao as amended. These Republic Acts numbers will surely discussed by the other discussants. This chapter, all regional governments and local authorities shall also have a duty to enforce this act and any regulations as appropriate will fare codes. Section 14, Rules and Regulations. The Secretary of Education shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations within 90 days after the approval of this act, provided that the Secretary of Education shall fully implement the principle of shared governance within 2 years after the approval of this act. The next one is the Section 15, Separability Clause. If for any reason, any portion or provision of this act shall be declared unconstitutional, other parts of provisions hereof which are not affected thereby shall continue to be in full force and effect. Section 16, Repealing Clause. All laws, decrees, executive orders, rules and regulations, parts thereof inconsistent with the provisions of this act, are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. And the last one, the Section 17, Effectivity Clause. This act shall take effect 15 days following its publication in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation. And this is the end of our report. Thank you for your time and attention that you have given. And may this report enlighten all of you concerning what is the Republic Act 9155 all about. That will really help us as future educators. Again, I'm Hannah Nicole Gaas.
And I'm Albert Servino. Thank you.